The story of Nehemiah, as you call him in English, has so many wonderful lessons. We talked about some of them yesterday, and today we want to add because there is just so much to learn for anyone who claims to be a believer, wants to be a believer, wants to know how believers should live their lives and how they should actually manifest their faith into action. Because, faith is not something ethereal that you just have and doesn't actually show up in your life, as if you're still living in the closet. Even the gay people come out of the closet at some point. But so many of you believers don't actually do anything with your faith. So we wanted to share with you some of the things and the lessons from the rebuilding of the wall that was built, the walls of Jerusalem, in the days of Nehemiah. He came back from Persia with the decree from the king Artaxerxes with permission and by the grace of God. He saw all the parts of the wall that were destroyed, and he did a survey about everything, and he came and he summoned all the people of Judah, and he inspired them to go and rebuild the wall. He got everybody on board, and they all got thrilled and excited, and they did it in a willing heart. And, well, as it is with everyone else, some can do more than others. Some can do a lot, some can do little, and some can barely do anything. But when you look at this story of rebuilding the wall and how it actually happened, it is so beautiful to see that even those who were poor, who were weak, who were needy, found it in their heart to do something. Others did multiple sections of the wall. It says one family did about 1,000 feet of the wall, all by themselves because they could. And then another family did 2 sections of the wall. They finished the one and then they went on to do another. And yet others, who were wealthy, they just hired somebody else to do it for them. And the lesson is, while everyone is required to contribute, we all have a different contribution. Some can give more money than time. Some can give more time than money. Some can do neither, but you can make a phone call to somebody who could do both. So that you are never without excuse. There is always something you could do, even if you cannot do it yourself. Well, why aren't you finding somebody else to fill the gap? And we get it all the time in practical living. I gave you a biblical example. Now let's talk practical. Somebody is sick. You can't go and visit them. Maybe you're halfway across the country. Maybe you're just too busy. It's possible. You have your own issues to take care of. But they're sick, they're needy. What are you doing about it? Are you looking for somebody else to go and care for them? Do you ask somebody else to send support? To go visit them? You don't have to do everything yourself, but what are you doing?
Well, they have a service that allows people to receive groceries. You can, you're too far. You can't get there to bring groceries to the people that are shut in. It's called the shut in ministry. In my generation, we had people that were shut in, right? Meals on Wheels. I had a guy who moved to Wyoming, and I encouraged him to get involved, find something you want to get involved. And he did a wonderful job. He went out there and I'm going to do the Meals on Wheels to seniors. Uh, because I always feel like it's important to do for others. So obviously, we should be doing for each other, your brothers, your sisters, your family, the ones that are closest. The Bible says, prefer the brethren. But that does not mean you don't do for people on the outside. They too get to the gleaning of your charity. The majority of your charity is going to go to the mission work and to your brethren and your family. But there's plenty of room to be gleaned to go to the stranger and the foreigner as well. Someone that just walks up to you at a gas station, or someone that you're seeing on a street. Or so we have the ability to give in multiple levels, though we don't give the same amount in all those levels, and that's just logical and common sense. But he went in. The seniors loved him, and and with all of his effort, He wasn't hanging out at a gym, and he wasn't hanging out at Pilates. He used his free time to go and hang out with old women, and they loved having a young man come up to bring them food. Oh, women outlive men. So I've got a young, strong, handsome man bringing me a meal. And they just loved him. He would laugh with them and just have those old babuskas. They loved him. And he got more joy out of it than they did. He got to hang out with grandmas, make their day, and a conversation, and just joy and love. And it gave him so much fulfillment when he talked about it. He was constantly laughing and giggling and giddy. It was wonderful. And I'm so glad he did it. And he stayed committed to it too. And another one, his brother lives in Colorado. And he goes, "What should I do?" And I told him, I says, "Well, I tell you what, why don't you go and volunteer?" And he's a teacher, educated man. I didn't tell him to go to church and join a Bible study. No, I don't want you to join a Bible study. I want you to go out and live what the Bible that you're studying about teaches you. I said, go on and find a place to volunteer. How about hospitals? He tends to have a nurturing spirit, this young man, likes to care. I said, you'd be good at finding people that are sick. So he went to a really very nice, prestigious hospital, very prestigious. It was where all of the big time preachers in the city went and all of the famous people went. And, it was kind of like a Hogue Presbyterian hospital, religious astute hospital. And the hospitals were started by the churches in the religious community. You secular atheists forget that point, don't you? But nonetheless, they said, oh, well, we have a waiting list. You'll have to get in line. Everyone wants to volunteer at the rich, religious Christian hospital. Because that town where he lives has a lot of rich Christian people. And I told him, I said, you know what? Go to the inner city. Well, that's weird. I said, oh, don't worry. There's no waiting list there. Nobody wants to volunteer there. They all want to be in a nice urban, suburban, rich place, even the church folk. I said, go to the inner city. He went to the poor hospital, the ones, or maybe you don't. You should get to know where they are, by the way, if you don't. And he went there, and he just figured he'd go fill the application, and he's getting on their waiting list or something. The nurse literally grabbed him and put a gown on him. Oh, you want to volunteer? We could use you right now. Well, no delay at the poor, underserved, underfinanced, where nobody wanted to go. There wasn't a long list of Christians that wanted to volunteer there. Oh, no. And I love what he said. He said, I want to go where I'm needed, where I can make the biggest difference. And I'm pretty sure he was the only white volunteer in that minority hospital. They loved him, and he loved it even more. And why? Because he felt fulfilled. I'm going where I'm needed, not just one of a crowd. And I was so proud of him. And he too stayed to it. I had another guy, and very successful engineer. And he wasn't doing much of anything either. Visiting churches was his pastime. I'm like, why don't you do something to give back to the people in the real world? I said, you have a lot of knowledge. You're very intelligent. You have a lot of smarts. There's a lot of young people of all ages and races, and they don't have smart parents, or they can't afford private tutors. Why don't you tutor? And guess what? He started to tutor. And he was so fulfilled. Not only fulfilled, the people that he was tutoring loved him. He's fun, he has a good attitude, and he has knowledge. Who doesn't like a teacher like that? And he looks cool. All the kids love a cool teacher. And he was changing and fulfilling lives. And to this day, he's still doing that. He's fulfilled in it. Nobody has to tell him to do it. He wants to do it. I encouraged him to do it. That's all it took. And once he went down that path, it's self-propelling on itself. And he realized whatever he was giving them, he was getting more back. They were grateful and appreciated. When somebody is helping, be grateful and appreciate it. Now, even if you're not, that's not going to stop them from doing it, because they're not doing it for your platitudes. They're not doing it for your applause. It's what fulfills them. That they can feed a hungry dog from a shelter, even though the dog is trying to bite them. And that's the joy of giving in your community in areas that have nothing to do if somebody says thank you or not. Because it's a responsibility. The greatest blessing is giving than receiving. And don't measure your giving. Don't count how much you've given. Don't do that. You'll lose all of your blessing when you do that. There's nothing worse than to do something good and lose the blessing of the good because your intention and your attitude robs you of the reward of it. And the reward is, I go, whether you go or not. I do, whether you like or not. I'm going to preach God's word, whether you receive it or not, because it's the right thing to do. It is right to help your brother. It is right. The Bible says when you see a need, fulfill it. Don't wait to be asked. That's just the right thing to do, isn't it? See somebody stranded on the road? You have to wait for them to ask you, the story of the Good Samaritan? Can't you see with your eyes that your brother needs your help? And it shouldn't take just seeing someone bleeding on a road. See, most will avoid it, and a lot of people do. Oh, no, I don't want to get involved. You're either afraid of what it's going to cost you, or you're embarrassed. See, that's not the people who make the difference. The people that make the difference are the people that are different. And they recognize the role of being a human in the right mindset that's not living by the wickedness of the fall of man, but the righteousness that came with the creation of man in the beginning. Jesus, Yeshua, came to bring us back into that righteous attitude where you are your brother's keeper. You are the friend to the stranger. You are hospitable to the foreigner. This is how we're called. And the rebuilding of the wall, they're bringing each one according to your faith, according to your resources, according to your ability. One friend came, and because of my injury, I just couldn't lift the water. He came and lifted the water. I couldn't remove the refrigerator. He came and moved the refrigerator. I couldn't lift the chair. He came and lifted the chair. One says, I can't get to you, but I can send somebody. See, you can do whatever it takes to send, to bring, to help. And you do that when you love. And another thing that you do when you love, when you can't do. You know, Guy can tell you about the story of one of my Swedish friends whose mother was going through a divorce. And she got into a house in an area that needed a lot of renovation. And, well, I didn't have the money, but I had the mouth. You know how to get up behind somebody and spur, go out and grab the crowd when you want to chase a burglar or a murderer, and you go in the middle of the town and you tell people what's happened, and you put together what they call a posse. And the sheriff says, boys, we got to go up there. I need somebody with volunteers, right? Or you deputize the ones who don't volunteer. And so she needed help. Well, I'm only one person. She needs a lot of help. I wasn't asked, I was simply told by my young disciple, his mother's going through it. I felt sorry for her. I said, I'll help. But you're only one person. Yeah, but I can get on the phone. I can knock on the door. I can go and grab people like they do at Home Depot to go grab workers for construction. I can just get them. And all of my guys that I minister to called them up. Didn't call them up to read a Bible verse, sing a song, go to a Bible study. No. You are the hands and feet of God to get physical with defending your country, physical with defending the nuns in the crusade period that were being raped by the Muslims. Get physical. There comes a time to pick up a sword and pick up a hammer. Get physical. And so I called Guy, and Guy came along, didn't you, Guy?
Yeah, and a bunch of other guys, and we all got rounded up. And we went to that house and we got to work.
I called Angel, I called a whole bunch, and I said, hey, come on, meet in Orange. We're going to go and help this woman. She was surprised. Oh, I thought you were. I says, well, I know people. And when you know people that respect you, do you not call? You guys do it all the time. It's called GoFundMe. People get on and they try to tell strangers to help. Isn't it funny? The world, when they see that somebody's in need, they start a GoFundMe, even without the person knowing it. They started for homeless people, all kinds of things. You guys complain what you can't do or what you feel like you don't have enough to do, but you don't ever get on and start a GoFundMe. You don't ever get on the horn and start making calls. Isn't that interesting? I notice how Christians are not so apt to do that. Now, the Amish are, the Brethren and Mennonites are, those believers that came from Germany and the Dutch colonies and German colonies on the East Coast, but not most of you. Not most of you West Coast church going, Bible study reading Christians. You've lost the practicality of your faith, of knowing how to bring a team together like Nehemiah and Ezra. Come now. Let's join hands, brethren. Let's go and fix that barn. Well, I'm an electrician. Well, you can put in electricity. I'm a carpenter where you can do the floor. Well, I'm a painter where you can paint it. See, everybody's got a role to play, but it takes a general to bring it all together. And people in the world do it all the time. That's how they have those flash mobs. God knows Soros does it. People come together, and rather it's a volunteer, or rather it's a paid volunteer, or rather it's them themselves. They get the brother, the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, the stranger, the neighbor. And you want to be like that for God. Nehemiah's rebuilding of the wall. And you do whatever you can. And whatever you can't do, you find somebody else to do it. You use your influence. How to win friends and influence people. You use your influence. That's how you influence. And you be a friend. That's how you win a friend. How to win friends? No, be a friend. You see, the idea is we all, rather it's, as Jesus, the widow's 2 little coins that gave more than the man that gave thousands of coins, because he gave only a portion of his, she gave all of hers. See, the spirit and the principle is what's in play. You guys count, stop counting, and do more to intercede and intervene. And if you were limited, you're not limited in getting a posse together. They don't need to know the person. I spent years getting posses together for people in need. And many of the people that respect me gave because I said so. Well, if you say it's okay, Steve, we'll do it. You know, some of the local businesses there, they know me for bringing people in for them to hire. They've hired many of the people that I told them to hire. And it's only because of my relationship with them. That's how it works. Who cares? They don't need to know they know me. And they know I wouldn't suggest somebody that didn't need help or somebody that I didn't think would be of help to them and a good choice. So you use your sphere of influence. You don't have to feel so limited. You've got a mouth and you got a life. And you bring all of that to bear to get the mission done or to help somebody in need, even when you're limited. And that's what the rebuilding of the walls are. That's how we're to live our lives.